Instead, he goes to a Catholic source and says, all ancient texts have been changed. Read the Catholic source, they would include the Quran in that, and I wonder if he would accept that. Does he accept the Quran has been altered and changed? If not, then he can't use that source. And that's the subject of our later debate, and I hope, given what I'm going to present in that he has something more than what he's presented here. Because that kind of argumentation is not going to get very far in a scholarly debate on this subject. He mentioned Matthew 27:52, that people were resurrected. Where are the testimonies about these people who were resurrected? What an incredible historiography. Anything you mention in a historical source has to have multiple external attestation to be true. Isn't there a little problem there? Isn't the Quran one person's writing? So where's all the multiple attestation of everything in the Quran? If we're consistent, then he'd have to reject everything in the Quran as well, but obviously he's not going to do that. Remember what I said before, who's going to be consistent, who's going to use double standards. So far, the double standards have been documented very, very clearly. He mentions anonymous authors. Yes, there are anonymous authors. The Old Testament has a number of books that we don't know who wrote. We don't know who wrote Hebrews. Why is that an issue? I don't know. But one thing I can tell you, let me give you an argument from the Quran, that the argumentation, all that stuff about attacking the text of the New Testament, saying it's been changed, saying it's been altered, is not what the original Muslims believed. Here's the argument from the Quran. Surah 5, 47-48. In their footsteps we sent Jesus, the son of Mary, confirming the law that had come before him. Notice, Jesus confirmed the law that had come before him. We know what the Old Testament read in the days of Jesus, called the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know exactly what it read, and it's exactly what we read today. So if Jesus confirmed that, we know what he confirmed, and we know we have it. No question about it. We sent him the gospel. Therein was guidance and light and confirmation of law that had come before him, and guidance and admonition to those who fear Allah. Let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah hath revealed therein. How can we judge? How could the people in the days of Muhammad judge Muhammad by what was contained in the gospel if they didn't have it? And if they haven't, we know exactly what they had, because we have entire copies of the Bible in Greek that predate Muhammad by 300 years. So all this stuff about, oh, it's all been altered and all this stuff been taken and taken out is a completely bogus argument that can be documented to be a completely bogus argument. 4:1-36 says, O ye who believe in the law and his apostle and the scriptures which he has sent to his apostle and the scripture which he sent to those before him, and who denieth a law, his angels, his books, plural, his apostles in the day of judgment have gone far astray. Allah has revealed books according to the Quran. Why don't the Muslims have books? They only have one. The reason they have only one is because they've now decided the other ones were corrupt. Why? Because once Islam began to grow, they began to realize, oops, our book is inconsistent with the other books. And there is the problem. There's more I can say on that, but I did want to get to just a couple of other things. He said Theophilus, for example, is from the 2nd or 4th century. Theophilus is a common word that means lover of God. How you can know, we have manuscripts of Luke, we have fragments of Luke from the 2nd century. The idea this makes Luke 2nd or 4th century is, again, from a scholarly perspective, utterly absurd. Then he wanted to point out, and he evidently didn't hear that I pointed this out before. Remember, he was trying to prove, well, there's these texts and they have these second narrations, and so since these books mention their authors, they can't be real. Then he quotes from John. John had not yet been cast in prison. Let me try this. Maybe I went through it too fast. John the Baptist is not John the Apostle who wrote the book. There's a different John. There's more Johns in the New Testament. There's Paul's and things like James's, and there's multiple Jameses. There's at least 5 different Marys. And so, again, simple, basic level error that needs to be corrected. I was then asked, all these other sources, Ignatius of Antioch. I don't get the feeling that my opponent has ever read Ignatius of Antioch. Doesn't know anything about the background of the text. He says, well, did they see Jesus get crucified? Well, here's a new historical paradigm. That every historical text to have relevance must be written by an eyewitness. What would happen with the entirety of the Hadith if you applied this standard to that? Did Sahih al-Bukhari see people say those words? Of course not. Well, if he's going to be consistent, he just had to reject all of the Hadith literature of Islam. Does he do that? Of course he doesn't do that. Why? Because of double standards. The application of double standards is the surest demonstration that you have lost the position and you have lost the debate. No, they did not see Jesus get crucified. But they are first century testimonies to the fact that those who try to say that the crucifixion has been made up by Paul or made up by someone else and then inserted into the religion need to have something better to prove their point with than just simply saying, well, somebody who claimed to be a prophet 600 years later said so.